The hum of the cryo facility had become Owen Matthews's heartbeat over the past 18 months. Deep beneath Europa's ice crust, the Meridian Archive stored things the universe wanted to forget: political prisoners, biological samples, weapons too dangerous to destroy, but too valuable to discard. Owen's job was simple: keep the systems running, file the reports, and never ask questions about the pods. Marked with red clearance seals. He'd gotten good at not asking questions. The maintenance tunnel was narrow enough that his shoulders brushed both walls as he squeezed through. Diagnostic scanner held out before him like a dowsing rod. Section 7 Beta had been throwing temperature warnings for 3 days straight. Probably just a faulty sensor. They were always failing in the sublevels. But protocol demanded a physical inspection. His breath misted in the frigid air. The environmental systems kept these levels just above freezing to conserve power. Owen's insulated suit helped, but after an hour of crawling through access shafts, the cold always found its way to his bones. The scanner chirped. Temperature anomaly confirmed. 60 meters ahead. Owen frowned. If this was just a sensor malfunction, the reading should have normalized as he got closer. Instead, the numbers were climbing. Something down here was generating heat. The tunnel opened into a forgotten storage chamber, one that didn't appear on any of the facility schematics he'd studied. Emergency lighting strips cast everything in pale blue, making the frost on the walls glitter like scattered diamonds. And there, in the center of the room, stood a cryopod he'd never seen before. It was different from the standard units. Older, maybe, or built by a different manufacturer. The casing was obsidian black, etched with symbols that hurt his eyes when he tried to focus on them. Frost covered every surface except for one handprint on the access panel recent. Still radiating residual heat. Someone had been here. Recently. Owen approached slowly. Every instinct screaming at him to turn around, file a report. Let someone with better clearance deal with this. But curiosity, that fatal human trait, pulled him forward. The pod's readout screen flickered to life as he neared. Status displays scrolled past in a language he didn't recognize, but the biometric readings were universal enough. Single occupant. Life signs stable. Stasis duration: 197 years, 4 months, 12 days, nearly 2 centuries. Owen's hand moved to the access panel before his brain could catch up. He wasn't going to open it, just check the logs, see who this pod belonged to, why it wasn't in the system. His fingers brushed the surface. The handprint lit up beneath his touch. Oh hell, the pod screamed. Not an alarm, but an actual scream, mechanical and biological blended together in a sound that made Owen's teeth ache. Pressure seals hissed. Cryofluid began to drain in thick, viscous streams. The lid cracked open with a groan of protesting metal. Owen stumbled backward, fumbling for his cum device. Control, this is Matthews in 7 Beta. I've got an unauthorized wake-up sequence. I repeat. Static answered him. Of course, these deep sections were shielded against external signals. He was alone. The lid swung fully open, releasing a cloud of vapor that rolled across the floor like a living thing. Through the mist, Owen saw movement. A figure sitting up, slow and deliberate. She was tall, that was his first thought. Even seated, she was nearly at his eye level. The second thought came as the vapor cleared and he got his first real look at her. Not human. Her skin was silver, not gray, but actually metallic silver, catching the light like polished chrome. It shifted with each breath, rippling in patterns that suggested scales without quite forming them. Her hair fell past her shoulders in sheets of pure white, so fine it seemed to float on non-existent currents. She was built like a dancer, all lean muscle and elegant lines. Dressed in form-fitting armor that looked grown rather than forged. Then she opened her eyes, crimson, deep, burning crimson, with pupils that were vertical slits. They fixed on Owen with an intensity that made him forget how to breathe. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The chamber filled with the sound of dripping cryofluid and Owen's hammering heart. Then she spoke, and her voice was like velvet dragged over broken glass. "How long?" Owen's mouth worked silently. She tried again, this time in a language he didn't know. Then another, and another. Each attempt grew more frustrated, more desperate. Finally, Owen found his voice. 200 years. Give or take. She understood. Something in her expression crumbled, then rebuilt itself into something harder. 200. The words were thick with an accent Owen couldn't place, each syllable carefully formed. The war? What war? Her crimson eyes studied him with an intensity that felt physical. You don't know. Of course you don't. It's over, isn't it? We won or lost, and either way, I slept through the end. She moved to stand, and Owen saw the way her legs trembled. Whatever this cryopod's technology, it wasn't gentle. She gripped the edge for support, pride warring with necessity. Easy, Owen said, stepping forward instinctively. You've been under for a long time. Your muscles need to... I know what my body needs. But her sharp tone was undercut by the way she swayed. Owen caught her arm. Her skin was fever-hot beneath his touch, and guided her down to sit on the pod's edge. Up close, he could see more details. Scars, thin and silver, crisscrossing her arms like constellation maps. A mark on her collarbone that might have been a tattoo or a brand, and something in her eyes beyond the alien crimson await. A weariness that had nothing to do with stasis. I'm Owen, he offered, because it seemed important to establish something normal, something human. In this moment of impossibility, she looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Sienna, my name is Sienna. Okay, Sienna. Can you tell me why you're in an unauthorized pod in a restricted section of a facility that's supposed to be cataloging every piece of contraband in this sector? Her laugh was bitter. Unauthorized. That's almost funny. She gestured to the pod, to herself. I am the contraband, Owen. I'm the thing too dangerous to use and too valuable to destroy. I don't understand. No, but you will. She tried to stand again, and this time made it fully upright, though she kept one hand on the pod for balance. Where is he? The man who put me here. He promised he would wake me when it was time. When my people needed me? Owen shook his head. I don't know who put you here. This pod isn't in any of our systems. As far as the facility knows, this room doesn't exist. Something dangerous flickered across her face. Then someone wanted me forgotten. The lights flickered. Once, twice, then steadied into a pulsing red. An alarm began to wail distant, but growing closer. Sienna's head snapped toward the sound, every muscle in her body tensing. What is that? Owen was already pulling up his diagnostic display, but the screen showed only errors. Lockdown protocol. Someone's triggered a facility-wide containment sequence. He looked up at her, understanding dawning cold in his gut. They know you're awake. Then we need to leave, now. The exits will be sealed. Every door, every elevator, Then we find another way. Sienna moved toward him, each step more steady than the last, her body remembering its strength. You know this place? Better than anyone. Good. She held out her hand. Not a gesture of friendship, but of partnership. Of necessity. Then you're going to help me escape, Owen Matthews. And I'm going to make sure you survive what comes next. Owen stared at her outstretched hand-silver skin, sharp nails that might have been claws. Offering alliance with a stranger who might be the most dangerous thing in this entire facility. He took it. Her grip was strong, almost painful, and burning hot. Stay close to me, she said. And whatever happens, don't let go. The alarm screamed louder. Somewhere in the distance, Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors. Multiple sets. Moving fast, Sienna smiled, and it was not a kind expression. Its scenes were popular. Owen pulled her toward the access tunnel he'd come through. This way. I know the maintenance routes. We can lose them in the sublevels. They ran together into the dark, her hand still locked in his. As the facility above them began to tear itself apart, trying to contain what they'd accidentally unleashed. Behind them, in the empty chamber, the cryopod screen flickered one final message before dying. Subject: Sienna Vale classification. Weapon class Alpha status. Containment breach protocol. Eliminate. ONSIGHT, but neither of them saw it. They were already gone, disappearing into the labyrinth of frozen corridors, bound together by accident and necessity and the first threads of something that might, against all odds, become trust. The maintenance tunnels were never meant for running. Owen's lungs burned as he pulled Sienna through passages barely wide enough for one person, let alone two moving at speed. Behind them, the alarm continued its relentless wail, punctuated now by the sharp crack of emergency bulkheads slamming into place. Left here, Owen gasped, yanking her around a corner. The tunnel sloped downward, deeper into Europa's ice. Condensation made the metal floor treacherous. His boots skidded, but Sienna's grip kept him upright. How deep does this facility go? She asked, not even winded. Her crimson eyes cut through the dimness like lanterns. 17 levels. We're on 7 now. Need to reach the quantum beacon on 3. It's the only communication system that can penetrate the lockdown shielding. And tell them what? That you accidentally freed a prisoner? There was dark amusement in her voice. I'm sure they'll be understanding. Owen didn't answer, mostly because she was right. The moment he'd touched that pod, his career had ended. Possibly his life. The Meridian Archive didn't tolerate security breaches. They certainly wouldn't tolerate freeing a 200-year-old alien, classified as a weapon. The tunnel opened into a vertical shaft. Emergency lighting painted rust-red ladders, descending into darkness. Owen's display showed 4 levels straight down. Fast route, but exposed. Can you climb? He asked. Sienna gave him a look that suggested the question was insulting. She swung onto the ladder and descended so quickly she seemed to flow downward like liquid. Owen followed as fast as he dared, his hands already aching from the cold metal. They'd made it 2 levels when the explosion came, not close somewhere above and behind, but powerful enough to shake the entire shaft. Owen's foot slipped. For one heart-stopping moment he was falling, watching the ladder rungs blur past. Then Sienna's hand shot out, catching his wrist with impossible speed. Breathe, she said calmly, as if they weren't dangling over a killing drop. I have you. She pulled him back to the ladder with one arm, her strength casual and absolute. Owen clung to the rungs, heart hammering. Thanks. Don't mention it. Though you should work on your grip strength. She tilted her head, listening. They're cutting through the bulkheads. We have perhaps 10 minutes before they reach this section. They dropped the remaining levels in silence, emerging into a corridor Owen recognized. Level 3. The quantum beacon was close now, just through the observation deck and past the old research wing. The observation deck stretched before them, a vast semicircle of reinforced glass looking out onto Europa's subsurface ocean. Bioluminescent creatures drifted in the black water beyond, their glow providing the only light. The facility had cut main power to these sections, forcing lockdown. Owen moved across the deck, but Sienna caught his arm. Wait, what is it? She stood utterly still, head tilted like a predator scenting prey. We're not alone. Owen strained his ears, but heard nothing except the distant alarm and the creak of ice settling around them. I don't, the window exploded inward. not shuddered, exploded, as if something had struck it from outside with tremendous force. Water didn't follow. The observation deck had emergency force fields for exactly this scenario. But what came through the breach wasn't water. Three figures in heavy assault gear, magnetic boots clamping to the floor, unmarked armor, faces hidden behind reflective visors. They moved with military precision, weapons already raised. Target acquired, one said, voice distorted by helmet speakers. Sienna Vale, you are to be terminated under Protocol Nightfall. Surrender and your death will be quick. Sienna laughed a sound like breaking crystal. How generous. And the human? Collateral damage. Owen's hand went to his tool belt. He had no weapons, just maintenance equipment, diagnostic tools, a plasma torch for cutting through frozen metal. Nothing that would stop armed soldiers. Sienna stepped in front of him. The movement was so smooth, so natural, that it took Owen a moment to process. She'd placed herself between him and the guns, her body a shield. You'll have to go through me, she said softly. That was always the plan. They fired. Sienna moved like lightning made flesh. She was there, then she wasn't. Then she was beside the first soldier, her hand, just her bare hand, smashing through his chest plate like it was paper. He went down gurgling. The second soldier adjusted aim, tracking her movement. Owen didn't think. He pulled the plasma torch from his belt and threw it. The tool struck the soldier's helmet, not hard enough to damage, but enough to distract. Sienna used the opening, spinning low and sweeping the soldier's legs. He hit the ground hard. She brought her heel down on his helmet. The visor cracked. The soldier stopped moving. The third had learned. He'd backed to the wall, creating distance, weapon trained not on Sienna, but on Owen. Move and the human dies. Sienna froze mid-step. That's better. The soldier's weapon hummed, charging. You're fast, Vale. The reports didn't lie. But you're not faster than a neural disruptor at this range. Drop him, or I drop the engineer. For the first time since waking, Sienna looked uncertain. Her crimson eyes flickered to Owen, and he saw something in them he hadn't expected. Fear. Not for herself. Don't, Owen said. Don't do it, Sienna. He'll kill us both anyway. Smart human. The soldier's finger moved to the trigger. Owen lunged sideways, knowing it was futile, knowing he was too slow. The weapon discharged with a sound like tearing fabric. Owen felt heat pass by his face, so close it singed his hair. But he wasn't it. Sienna had moved. Impossible speed, crossing the space between them in a heartbeat. She'd caught the neural burst with her body, taking the hit meant for Owen. The energy coursed over her silver skin, making it glow like molten metal. She screamed, the first sound of pain Owen had heard from her, but she didn't fall. Instead, she grabbed the soldier's weapon and crushed it. Just closed her hand around the barrel and compressed it like clay. Then she grabbed the soldier himself, lifted him off his feet, and threw him through the breached window. He sailed out into the observation field, and the crushing pressure of Europa's ocean silence rushed back. Sienna swayed, silver skin still sparking with residual energy. Owen caught her as her legs gave out. Idiot, he said, voice shaking. That could have killed you, but it didn't kill you. She leaned against him, heavier than she'd been before. The neural disruptor had done damage. Strange. I don't even know you, Owen Matthews. Yet I took that shot, as if your life mattered more than mine. Owen helped her to a bench near the wall, away from the bodies. Why did you do that? Sienna was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. They trembled slightly, the only outward sign of how much that hit had cost her. I had someone once. Before the war, before the ice, before all of this. His name was Tarek. What happened to him? He died. The words were flat, emotionless, but Owen heard the grief beneath. In the Battle of Ashara Crossing, I was leading the orbital defense. He was commanding ground forces. The enemy broke through our lines. I could have reinforced him, pulled ships from the formation to provide air support, but doing so would have exposed the civilian evacuation routes. Owen waited. Outside the window, bioluminescent creatures continued their eternal dance, indifferent to human pain. I made the tactical choice, Sienna continued. Sacrificed 8,000 soldiers, including Tarek, to save 80,000 civilians. It was the right call. I'd make it again. She looked up at him, crimson eyes wet. But that doesn't mean it didn't destroy me. Is that why you went into stasis? To escape the memory? No. I went into stasis because my people were tearing themselves apart. The war had ended, but we couldn't agree on terms. Some wanted complete destruction of our enemies. Others wanted integration, peace. I had become a symbol. The Crimson Blade, they called me. The one who'd won impossible battles. Both sides wanted me to lead them. She stood, steadier now, and walked to the observation window. So I made myself unavailable. Volunteered for a deep cover mission that required long-term stasis. Told myself it was for the greater good. Really, I was just running. Running from the choice I'd have to make. Running from the memory of Tarek's face when I told him I couldn't send help. Owen joined her at the window. And someone put you in that forgotten pod instead of wherever you were supposed to go. Someone who wanted me erased. Yes. She glanced at him sidelong. What about you, Owen Matthews? What are you running from? The question caught him off guard. I'm not. Please. You work in a forgotten facility beneath an ice moon, maintaining the universe's discarded secrets. That's not a career. That's exile. Owen leaned his forehead against the cold glass. I had a family once. Parents, a younger sister. They worked the Titan mining colonies. Good jobs, or so we thought. Then the corporation found a cheaper way to extract resources, automated systems that made human workers obsolete. His breath fogged the window. They terminated the contracts. Gave everyone 3 days to evacuate. But the transport ships, there was a malfunction. Pressure seal failure during ascent. They died. 247 people. My entire family was on the first transport. Owen's hands clenched into fists. The corporation paid a settlement. Called it an accident. But I found the maintenance logs. They'd known about the seal degradation for months. Chose profit over safety. And you couldn't prove it. No evidence made it past their legal team. So here I am, cataloging other people's sins in the dark, because looking at corruption from the outside was easier than fighting it from within. He laughed bitterly. We're quite a pair. A warrior who ran from war, and an engineer who ran from everything. Sienna's hand found his. Her skin had cooled from its earlier fever, but it was still warm. Perhaps we've run far enough. Owen looked down at their joined hands, silver and flesh, alien and human, bound by nothing but shared damage and the faint possibility of redemption. The alarm changed pitch. A new sound joined its steady, rhythmic pounding. Something heavy hitting metal. The bulkheads, Sienna said. They're through. Owen pulled up his display. The quantum beacon was close now through the research wing, down one level, past the old biological containment chambers. Maybe 5 minutes if they ran. The soldiers would reach them in 3. We can't fight through them, he said. There'll be more than 3 this time. Then we don't fight. We disappear. Sienna pointed at his display. Show me the maintenance routes. Owen expanded the schematic. A network of service tunnels ran parallel to the main corridor's narrow, unmonitored, designed for automated drones. They'll be watching those. They'll be watching the ones marked on official maps. Her finger traced a path Owen hadn't noticed before, a gap in the documented structure. What's this? Probably just a scanning error. The original facility was built decades ago. Sometimes the blueprints don't match reality. Or sometimes they match a reality someone wanted hidden. Sienna's smile was sharp. Take me there. They found the entrance behind a false panel in the research wing. The space beyond was cramped, barely tall enough to stand in, and completely dark. But it led in the right direction. Owen activated his headlamp. The beam revealed walls covered in something that wasn't ice, wasn't metal, something organic and long dead, preserved by the cold. Symbols marked the surfaces, similar to the ones on Sienna's pod. This is a Valesian archive chamber, she whispered, running her fingers over the symbols. My people built this. Before the war. Before the facility even existed. Why would your people have a chamber on Europa? We were explorers once. Before we became warriors. We seeded archives throughout the galaxy, repositories of knowledge, culture, history. Places where our legacy could survive even if we didn't. Her voice held wonder and grief. I didn't know any still existed. The chamber led deeper, opening into a space that took Owen's breath away. A vast spherical room, walls covered floor to ceiling in crystalline storage matrices. Each crystal pulsed with faint inner light, billions of them, like stars trapped in stone. My gods, Sienna breathed. This is the archive of echoes. The complete history of my people. Every life, every memory, every moment we thought worth preserving. She moved to the nearest wall and placed her palm against a crystal. It flared bright, and suddenly the air filled with images, translucent, ghostly, but clear. Figures that looked like Sienna, silver-skinned and crimson-eyed, moving through scenes of a world Owen had never seen. Cities of impossible beauty. Ships that danced between stars. Children laughing in gardens where flowers grew in 6 dimensions. And then war. Explosions. Burning skies. The same figures, now armed, now screaming, now dying. The images faded. Sienna pulled her hand back as if burned. That's what I was fighting to protect, she said quietly. That beauty. That joy. And by the time the war ended, it was all gone. We saved nothing. We just became very efficient at destroying each other. Owen touched another crystal. Different images, 2 figures standing on a cliff edge, watching a binary sunset. One was clearly Sienna, younger, less scarred. The other was male, broader through the shoulders, with silver skin that held hints of blue. Tarek, Sienna said. That was the last day before he shipped out to Ashara. He asked me to resign my commission, run away together, find a colony world far from the war, and build something small and peaceful. What did you say? I said duty mattered more than happiness. She laughed, and it was the saddest sound Owen had ever heard. I was so certain I was right, so sure that sacrifice and honor would mean something in the end. Did it? I don't know. I've been asleep for 200 years. Maybe my sacrifice saved millions. Maybe it meant nothing. All I know is that Tarek died, thinking I chose war over him. And he was right. Owen wanted to say something comforting, something wise, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he did the only thing that felt honest. He took her hand again. You can't change the past, he said. I know. I've spent the last 3 years trying. But maybe we can still change what comes next. Sienna looked at him, really looked, and Owen saw vulnerability in those crimson eyes. Why are you helping me, Owen? You owe me nothing. Freeing me has already cost you everything. Because when I touched your pod, when you woke up, I saw something in your eyes. Recognition. Like you knew what it felt like to be forgotten. To be sealed away with all the other mistakes people wanted to pretend never happened. He squeezed her hand gently. Nobody should be alone in the dark. Not for 200 years. Not ever. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The archive chamber hummed around them, filled with the preserved memories of a dead civilization. Outside, soldiers hunted them. Above, a facility full of sins and secrets waited to bury them both. But in this moment, in this bubble of stolen time, there was only the two of them, and the tentative beginning of something neither had expected. Trust. Maybe. Even more than trust. The alarm shrieked louder. Red emergency lighting pulsed through gaps in the chamber walls. Time was up. The quantum beacon, Owen said reluctantly. We need to move. Yes. But Sienna didn't let go of his hand. Owen, when we reach it, when you call for help, they'll ask what I am. What you should do with me. I know. Will you tell them I'm dangerous? That I should be locked away again? Owen thought about the memories he'd seen in the crystals. Beauty and horror. Joy and grief. A woman who'd sacrificed everything and gained nothing. A warrior who'd learned too late that winning wasn't the same as being right. No, he said. I'll tell them you're someone who deserves a second chance. Same as me. Sienna smiled, a real smile this time, soft and genuine and transformative. For just a moment, Owen could see the person she'd been before the war, before the scars, before 2 centuries of ice. Then let's go earn that chance, she said. They left the archive of echoes behind. Still holding hands, they ran together toward the faint possibility of freedom. Behind them, the crystals pulsed with ancient memories. And in one of them, barely visible, 2 figures stood on a cliff edge watching a sunset, learning too late that happiness was worth more than honor. But ahead, in the darkness of maintenance tunnels and the chaos of a facility tearing itself apart, 2 different figures ran together toward an uncertain future, and this time, neither of them was running alone.